Welcome to this tutorial. My name is Xander. Now this tutorial is part of our Express.js Prisma ORM Query Fundamentals course. You can access this course playlist available for free on YouTube. For deeper learning, the full course is available for purchase at Udemy. Find all the resources and links in this video's description. Now don't forget to subscribe to the channel for weekly promotions, discounts, and Udemy course giveaways. Right, before we start writing any code, we're going to need a code editor. There are many code editors to choose from, and you can pick and choose whatever you like to use throughout this course that you feel comfortable with. Now, I do recommend if you are new to development that you use and follow along with this course using the code editor Visual Studio Code, which is one of the most popular code editors for modern development. Right, so in this tutorial, I'll show you how to install Visual Studio Code, really simple process, and then take you through how to create new projects, manage new projects in Visual Studio Code so you can get started creating new projects, as well as talk a little bit about customizations that you can make to maybe customize the interface for your own preferences. Now this is for Windows and Mac as probably well as Linux. The experience once you have Visual Studio Code installed is going to be very much the same. Okay, so let's start this journey by typing in Visual Studio Code, download in your browser, and that should take us to code.visualstudiocode.com and then maybe directly to the download link. So you may land on the home page, just need to download for your operating system. Here I'm on Mac, so it shows me the download for macOS. If you're on Windows, it's going to show you that, of course. And if that isn't enough for you, then what you can do is head over to the bottom here where it says other platforms. You can select that and take you to this window here where you can choose exactly what you want to download for Windows, Linux, or Mac. Now to simplify this process, just ignore these options at the bottom here. Just download for Windows, Mac or Linux, whatever operating system you're using. Use the big blue buttons to download a copy of Visual Studio Code, and let's get started. Once you've downloaded, if you're on Windows, just double click on the download and that then will take you through the installation process. There's no need for me to show you that. Just click on next, next, and next until you get to the end. There isn't any special needs for this course at all. So just go through the process, install, and you're good to go. Now on Mac here, I need to actually extract this zip file, and that should create a new file. And in actual fact, this application file here, we can run Visual Studio Code directly from this file. Now, typically what you want to do is to drag that across to applications and just go ahead and install it there. You can already see that I have it. I just replaced it. And that's where Visual Studio Code will reside here on Mac OS. Once that's installed, of course, if you're on Windows, go to Start, open up the application. Here on the Mac, I can use Command and Space to open up Spotlight and type in Visual Studio Code, and that should open up the application. Now, the first thing we're going to need with Visual Studio Code is some sort of project folder. Now, you can create that yourself, or if you are downloading the source code connected to this course, that will, of course, be downloaded into some sort of folder. So typically the first task when you open up Visual Studio Code is actually to connect to your project folder that you want to use. And I've accidentally deleted that welcome screen. Apologies. So what we can do is, well, there's commands here. It shows you the shortcuts on how to open up a file or folder. But the first thing we need to do, like I said, is if here on the Mac, and I know you can't see this, but up the top here in the menu, I'm going to select File and then Open Folder. So from there, we just need to select the folder you want to open, and all the project code should be in that folder. Right, so I press open, I find the folder, then the folder is open. So this is the folder that's on my desktop that I just created. This is where I'm going to create my new project. So every time you open up Visual Studio Code or start a new project, you're going to need to connect the project to the application here. Now on the left hand side, this is the tab, the Explorer tab. This is where you're going to see all your project files. And from here we can create new files or use the options here to create folders and files. So let's create a new file. Let's call this test.py. Let's go MD. Okay, so this is a new file. Notice when we create new files, or when we open new files, sorry, we have a tabbed system here at the top, so we can have multiple files open. You won't need this welcome tab, but what you will find here in this welcome tab is the open option to open a new project. Right, so when you're working with the project, typically what you'll find is that Visual Studio Code will remember the last project you were working with. So when you open or reopen up Visual Studio Code, it will open up to the last project you were working on. That can be really useful. So as you start typing code in any of your files or modules, what you might like to do is go to File. I know you can't see that again, but File in the menu and then select Auto Save. That can be a really valuable first setting to change. And that's just going to ensure that you don't have to keep pressing save. As soon as you type any code, it's going to be saved. So that's really the basics. Open up a new project, create new files, edit files, save files. So you can manage the files from the top here in the tabs, so you can open and close. What you can also do is create files side by side. Let's do it again, test1.md. So if you have multiple files, you can open this up. On the right hand side at the top here, you've got this option of split screen or split editor. So you can have two files side by side, which can sometimes make it easier to develop. Right, so this text might be a little bit too small for you. So everything you see here can be changed. So here on the Mac, I can press Command and plus on my keyboard, and it's going to be very similar on Windows. I can actually zoom in and out, so plus and minus, plus I'm holding Command at the same time. I can zoom in and out and change the scale of my UI, which might be useful. Now, to change the actual text size, there's a few options. I'm using a mouse which has a scroll wheel. So if I go to settings, there's plenty of ways to get to Visual Studio settings. So here in the big cog at the bottom, I've got settings. Alternatively, I can select file from the menu and then go to code, and then settings. Just about see that in settings. So there's a few different ways to get to settings as well as a shortcut. And from here, I can type in zoom, and there is an option for me to zoom the font of the editor when using a mouse wheel. So I can also zoom the font of the terminal when using the mouse. So I've selected and added those, or I've selected those, so that when I have a look at my code, I can use Command button on my keyboard and use this mouse wheel to zoom in and out. And that can be really handy to zoom in and out of my code. Right, if you type in font code editor, what you will find is there's an option here to change the default font size for the editor. So let's just change that to something crazy so we can see it. So change that to 50, and you can see straight away it's way too large, but that will be the default size if you don't want to zoom in and out all the time and you know what size font you want. So you can also change that. That's probably a bit too large. So let's set that to 20. So that's some basic controls of viewing your code. Now, something else that we will be utilizing throughout this course is the command line. Now here in Visual Studio Code, it's all integrated, the terminal, and we can access the terminal. If I move my mouse down to the bottom, you can see it changes just about to an up arrow, and I click my mouse or touchpad and I drag up and I can access the terminal. Right, so this terminal can be accessed in many different ways. There is a terminal option in my menu. Go to view, in the menu. Again, I know you can't see the view option, but in the top menu, there's a view option and then select terminal. And you can see that will open and close the terminal. And there is a shortcut, whether you're on Windows or Mac, there will be a shortcut key that you can use. And that's typically what I'm going to be using in this course to open and close the terminal. You can see there's other options here. We won't be using them in this course. If you get lost, there will be these dots, and you can go back to terminal. Now, what you did see was there was an option to zoom in to the terminal. So I can actually now use my mouse to zoom in and out. And again, there will be a font size option if you want to set the default font size. So what you probably have noticed is that I have a completely different UI setup in terms of the color and maybe the font. And what I've done here is if you go over to extensions and type in Night Owl. Night Owl is a Visual Studio Code theme. So there are plenty of them. This is just one of many, the one that I use here. So just go ahead and select extensions, type in Night Owl, and then just install. There'll be an install. Mine says uninstall because I already have it installed. So once you've installed, you can then set the color theme to whatever theme that the Night Owl theme is provided. And you can see that I'm just using the default theme. But like I said, there are plenty of other themes for you to explore if that's something that you would like to do. And there we go. A quick crash course installing, creating new projects and managing projects, saving files, and a little bit about UI customization, which hopefully will get you started interacting and scaling and managing your UI in preparation for developing code. Right, so if there's anything I've missed, I will introduce it as we work through this course.